Hello investors, my name is Edwin Epperson, manager of Blue Bay Capital, and I am helping capital investors like yourself make wiser, more informed decisions. Today we're going to be covering note investing versus origination. This is a really unique topic, and I think in the space of private lending, those two terms can be thrown around, and most people might be familiar with note investing, but not so much origination. So we want to be in control, not the one controlled. As Jack Welch has famously said, control your own destiny or someone else will. So today we are going to be talking about the note timeline, all the different stages that a loan goes through to become a performing loan, all the way back to reconveyance. I will then dive into note investing, specifically that category of becoming a private lender. We will also cover origination, which is also named private lending. So there are some nuances to the industry of investing in loans, and so we're going to cover and dissect those today. Last but not least, we will cover Blue Bay Capital's turnkey solution and how it can help passive investors seeking passive income answer some of the hurdles before them. So let's discuss note timeline. First, we'll discuss the note timeline. These are the standard stages that a loan goes through during its lifeline. First, we will discuss marketing. How does a loan request even become a loan? Next, we will discuss processing, what it looks like, and what does processing a loan entail. We will then cover underwriting. Immediately following underwriting is closing, but we will not be discussing that stage in this video, primarily because closing is not the lender's primary responsibility, except of course, wiring in your funds. Following closing, we will discuss servicing a loan, followed by reconveyance. But there's not much to discuss on reconveyance, simply because the lender, that would be you, are receiving back your loan principal. Marketing simply means how a lender finds potential loans. In other videos, I cover different ways a lender may identify and find borrowers, but in this scenario, we will say that the lender, you are directly marketing for borrowers, meaning you are directly responsible for finding potential loans. This may include attending real estate meetings, networking events, social media, and even conferences or trade shows in the industry. As a lender, you will come across many tire kickers, bad loans, and borrowers that don't meet your qualification. Rest assured, you will go through many loan requests just to find a loan that fits within your box, if you will. Eventually, you will find a borrower with the right property and the right project. This request from the borrower will turn into a formal loan application. At a high level, processing is all about gathering documents and vetting the borrower basic information, knowing how to vet that information and knowing what documents to request from each party. Let's discuss some of those here. Borrower documents. Borrower documents can be broken down into two categories, personal and entity. I highly encourage note investors to invest in loans where a borrower is using an entity to borrow your funds. More on that in later videos and in this video. Property documents. These are documents utilized by a private lender to determine the property's validity, that it actually exists, its value now and potentially future, as well as documents needed to determine if anything is wrong with the property. Project documents. These documents are really restricted to loans made to an investor who will be improving or building a property. If a lender is making or investing in a loan where it's solely based on current as-is value, then this category of document is not necessarily needed. As well, the amount of time a lender needs to underwrite a file and vet a loan is significantly reduced. These documents should be focused on the project or construction, who will be performing the construction, and their capability in performing that construction. Title documents. These documents are specific to the lender and for the lender's protection. This ensures all liens, encumbrances attached to title are revealed and known, and ultimately that the lender is ensured to be in the position they are supposed to be on the chain of title. More on that in separate videos. Insurance documents. Lastly, a private lender will want to ensure their asset is protected with the correct type and amount of property insurance. Underwriting is normally the least complicated process, but it is the most critical. Once you know what documents you are supposed to be looking at, underwriting is simply a verification and validation of those documents and the information found within those documents. If you have the borrower documents, how does everything line up? Is the borrower who they say they are? Do they have the experience that they say they have? And do they have the money that they say they have? The property and the borrower, the property the borrower is putting up for collateral, does it exist? I know this may sound funny, but you would not believe the deals that have come across my desk where the borrower or the borrower doesn't even have the property under contract, or even more importantly, the property doesn't even exist. Also, you're going to want to know, do the property values actually hold up in the current market? Projects. Does the project make sense? Is it feasible? Is it capable? And is it reasonable? And is the borrower's team, the contractors, able to perform and complete the construction? Once these questions, among a myriad of additional questions, are answered to your satisfaction, you are ready to close. After closing, servicing simply is providing a service to the lender and to the borrower for collecting payments, sending end-of-year tax statements, and handling periodic notices. Once a loan is made and escrow closes, the loan is now performing. The servicer, in some cases the lender, and in other cases an actual servicing company, will begin communicating with the borrower, collecting payments, dispersing funds held in escrow on behalf of the lender, and if there are construction or escrowed interest payments, the servicer will handle those as well. In the case that a borrower does not meet the obligations of the note and the mortgage, the servicer, in this case the lender, begins the foreclosure process. I cover that in other videos, but the end result is that the lender would take this loan through the foreclosure process by means of a creditor's attorney and ultimately auction the asset for everything that is owed to the lender, or take the property back if there is not a successful bid on the property. In either case, servicing is an important role and function in the stages of the lifespan of a loan. We now come to the end of the loan and the borrower makes their final principal and interest payment, or they pay off the loan in full if it's a balloon payment, or they sell the property and everything is paid back. This is called reconveyance, where the lender's remaining principal is given back to the lender. This can happen primarily two ways, assuming the loan has performed the entire length or term of the loan. Number one, through the sale of the property, or number two, the borrower refinances the loan amount with a different lender. In any case, the lender receives all remaining principal back along with all unpaid interest, fees, and penalties. Let's dive into note investing. What is note investing and why would I differ this from private lending / origination? It all has to do with when you decide to invest in a note during its lifetime. Here we have the standard process where we have a lender who is marketing, then processing, and underwriting the loan request. All things being equal, the lender approves the loan closes, and now the lender is servicing the loan. This is typically when note investors enter the picture. The originating lender may have a note that is performing, meaning it's meeting all the requirements according to the loan documents, or it could be non-performing, meaning the note could be in default or even foreclosure, and that the lender is simply trying to liquidate their asset, the note. You as a note buyer now have to underwrite not only the borrower, the property, and the project, but you also have to underwrite the original lender and whether they made the loan in accordance with local and national laws. More on that in future videos, but it is extremely important. The burden is heavy on you as a note investor in this regard, because not only are you concerned about the return of your capital and the return on your capital, but you should approach note investing with extra caution due to the unknowns of the originating lender potentially failing to follow the law, and you could be buying an asset that could carry government legal problems, which you don't want. Let's say the loan was originated correctly. The originating lender is a well-established lender, and the borrower, property, and project all meet your criteria. You then buy the note from the originating lender and pay off that lender's loan. The note and the mortgage and all other loan documents are assigned to you, and you are now responsible for servicing that note until it is reconveyed. Here are some concerns with note investing, otherwise known as purchasing existing notes, whether they're performing or non-performing. 99% of the time, the borrower types are going to be consumers, meaning the borrower lives in the collateral, i.e. the asset, and in the industry, this type of loan is called an owner-occupied loan. This consumer loan is heavily protected by several federal regulations, and even states have stringent regulations for lenders originating or making owner-occupied loans. In almost all states, the originating lender or broker must be licensed. As you can see, this is a huge problem when, as a note investor, you could be buying an owner-occupied loan which was not created according to federal and/or state laws. Origination points. As a note buyer, you are not able to participate in the origination of a loan. One origination point is equal to 0.5% of the total loan, and many lenders charge origination points up front as part of their profit. Number 3, the rules. This is the biggest problem with buying already originated notes. You do not make the rules. You would be very wise to hire an attorney to review the originating lender's loan documents to make sure that you are protected and that the correct clauses are in place, such as what happens in a default. Too many times I've seen lenders who have a 2-page recorded mortgage with none of the protective measures included. In these cases, I can guarantee you that the borrower was the one that helped create the loan documents that they were signing. Again, you must be aware of the creation of the loan and making sure that it meets the rules, especially if the borrower lived in the property for any period of time. Typical loan term or the length of the loan. In many cases, due to the borrower type, meaning an owner-occupied, these loans are going to be more than 5 years. These are loans for families living in the property, so they, of course, are trying to reduce their monthly payment, and this is a long-term play for their family's future. This means you have a long time to have your capital locked into a fixed-rate loan. Typical LTV is 80% or more of the property value. Because you're lending to a family that will be living in the property must be livable. Therefore, there's not so much room to improve the asset to increase the value. As well, the borrower will be trying to put down as little as possible. Granted, if you are buying a note that's been performing for a few years, the principal due will be less, yet in general, you're not going to have a ton of protective equity. This is the biggest benefit to note investing. Most sellers of private notes are small companies or individuals who made the loan. There are a few public marketplaces where you can go to purchase these type of notes, and many times when the original note creator wants to liquidate their asset for any reason, they will sell it at a discount. The term used in the note investing space here is called the UBP, or unpaid principal balance. You can typically get discounts on the UBP, which is why note investing can be attractive and lucrative. Last but not least is the typical interest rate being charged to owner-occupied borrowers. In most, but not all cases, the borrower is paying 8% or less. You have to remember that usury laws come into play when making owner-occupied loans, and the government is very strict on ensuring that vulnerable consumers are not being taken advantage of by predatory lenders, hence all the rules and laws on the books concerning owner-occupied loans. Let's discuss origination, or what I call private lending. As you can see, the lender, in this case you, is being brought into the deal early on, typically at the marketing stage, by way of your own marketing efforts or by working with a broker. At this point, you are now processing and underwriting the loan request. You then make the decision to either do the loan or not do the loan. You service or you hire a servicer for your loan all the way to payback or reconveyance. So what are the differences between note origination and note investing? Well, most importantly, you have the option to decide who your borrower is, an owner-occupied or non-owner-occupied borrower. If you are an individual and you don't have a license, then it may be much more beneficial for you to participate in non-owner-occupied lending space, for instance, to real estate investors. As the originating lender, you get to charge upfront points or origination points. This can be from none points or 0 points up to 5% of the loan amount, all depending on the situation. Again, depending on the type of borrower, you get to choose which set of rules you quote-unquote lend under, business to business or business to consumer. Business to business being non-owner occupied and business to consumer being the owner occupied loans, it's not hard to determine which type of loans you may want to focus on. Just as a reminder, the origination of your loan, if it is made to an owner occupied borrower, must meet federal and state regulations to be a valid loan. because most private investors are not licensed and most of these loans are non-owner occupied loans. Therefore, they are generally made to real estate investors, and investors only need your loan for a very short amount of time. Actually, it's typically less than 12 months, but if you're lending to a new builder, then the time frame can creep up to 2 years, or if the construction project or renovation project is really large, it could be longer than 12 months. Due to the fact these are investment loans, you naturally will have a larger equity cushion, and the borrower will have more skin in the game, a common term used to describe down payment. This is the biggest disadvantage to note investing on the origination side. You have to have the full loan amount. Or do you? And we'll talk about that later in this video and in others. Finally, the rate on non-owner occupied business-to-business lending is being able to participate in the origination process. You're going to be able to charge a higher interest rate, typically between 8 and 10%, maybe even more, depending on the deal. So how does Blue Bay Capital answer some of the hurdles facing private lenders like yourself? Well, if you're looking to do note investing or origination, these are some of the questions that you will be faced. Do you want to create the rules? If you're on the note investing side, you can't. If you want to determine the amount of safety you have, on the note investing side, you can't, but on origination, you can. If you want to control your risk, you can definitely do that on the origination side. On the note investing, you're really restricted by the originating lender, what controls they put into place. If you want to be able to mitigate and shift your risk, you can do that on the origination side because, remember, you're creating the rules. On note investing, you're basically buying someone else's rules, and you don't know what their thought or risk tolerances were when creating that loan. Also, to me, this is huge. You can reduce the government oversight. Again, remember, when you're note investing or you're making loans or investing in loans on owner-occupied loans, the government has a lot of say in how that loan was created, and there's a lot of rules and regulations overseeing that. With origination to non-owner occupied, it pretty much goes out the window. So really, the question that remains for you is Blue Bay Capital's turnkey private lending solution for you. If you're seeking truly passive investments for passive income, if you're looking for a lower risk yet higher return for safer investments, and if you're looking for investments where you are in control, my belief is that our turnkey private lending solution is perfect for you. My name is Edwin Epperson. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. This is how you can reach out to me. Please connect on LinkedIn or Facebook. Happy to have a conversation and answer any questions you have concerning note investing versus origination. God bless. Make it a great rest of your week.